श्रीं ह्रीं सरस्वत्यै नमः।
Hello everyone, welcome to History Mantra. Today we are going to study about historiography, which is basically understanding history and its basics. In this video we are going to read about Unit 1, that is generalization. But first let's start with the basic definition of historiography. So what is historiography? It is the study of how history is written by historians, and history can be anything, be it social history, political history, cultural history, and so on. In this, we study about the factors and the conditions which may have impacted the historians and their surroundings and conditions, and ultimately which may have impacted the history they have written. So, first of all, we should be aware of the basic terms and techniques of historiography. So, the first term which we should be aware of is generalization. In this video, we are going to study about generalization and these topics, that is causation, objectivity, history, ideology and society, we are going to see in the upcoming videos. In this video we are going to study these subtopics, that is introduction, what is generalization, what is the importance of generalization, what are the objections to generalization, rule of generalization, sources of generalization, and how can one improve his or her capacity to generalize, and finally the conclusion. So what is generalization? Generalization is an important aspect how historians carry out their task, or to quote Mark Bloch, how historians practice our trade, how they take the complex and large subjects which covers almost all areas of historians' crafts, and they make their own understanding. They take out simple facts and theories from their area. So Marc Bloch, he was a French historian and he was a founding member of the Annales School of French Social History. So basically what is generalization is that we are taking so many facts and figures and we are trying to make an understanding between them and trying to get some kind of theory. We are trying to generalize what it is all about. What is the definition of generalization? It is a linkage of disparate or unrelated facts which may be spanning across time or space with each other, and we are grouping them according to their rational classification. We are trying to explain an phenomena between them. We are trying to find something between them. It is the means through which historians understand their materials and try to provide their understanding of facts to each other. Let's see an example of World War. If we are going to start reading about World War II, so we should know about World War I first. What was the era? It happened in 1914 to 1918. What was the cause of the World War I? What are the treaties that were signed which ultimately led to World War II? It was Treaty of Versailles, and how Germany was made to pay that much compensation which ultimately led to World War II. So we are taking data of almost 20 to 30 years and we are trying to establish a relationship between them and trying to study World War II. So analysis and interpretation of events is invariably done through generalization. We can't analyze anything or interpret anything without generalization. We have to make generalization. We have to take our facts and data and we have to find a relationship between them. If we state about the caste or the religion of Mr. Modi or Mr. Yogi or Mr. Amit Shah, then we are generalizing about Hinduism. if we are going to study about India's independence, then we are not going to just study about Indian Independence Act of 1947 itself. We will go back to about 100 years and we will maybe study about revolt of 1857, what were the causes and how it failed, how it gave inspiration to leaders, how the Congress came into being. Jallianwala Bagh happened in 1990. Then so many reforms came, so many Government of India acts came. Then finally we got the independence. So we were reading about like 100 years, 200 years before to get the idea how India got its independence. So we are generalizing things. We are taking up facts and figures and we are generalizing things. Let's take a very simple example of generalization. If in a school or a college there is a class in which out of 60 or 50 students, 10 or 20 people are mischievous, then the whole class is generally termed mischievous in the whole school. So what are we doing? We are just generalizing those people. We are not saying that those 10 people are mischievous. We are stating that the whole class is mischievous. The whole class is involved in mischievous activities. Right? So moving on to next slide. Generalization are of various types. It may be simple or complex, or low level or high level. So first see what is low level generalization. A low level generalization is made when we label a fact or an event or classify it or periodize it. For example, low level generalization happen when we label certain facts as economic, or we are labeling certain people according to their caste or religion or profession, and we are saying that this particular event happened in a century or in that particular year. Then middle level generalization. A middle level generalization is made when we find interconnections among different elements of the subject under study. It means that certain subjects or certain topics which happened in the same era or in the same or under the same subject, like if we talk about capitalism, colonialism, nationalism, feudalism, then they can be studied under middle level generalization, because during colonialism capitalism happened, feudalism happened, nationalism happened, so all are connected to each other. Then the last is wide generalization. Wide generalizations happen when we are connecting all the significant connections or threads in the society together. Like, to study a certain society, we are studying all the factors related to it, be it economic, political, social, cultural, or ecological linkages in the entire era. Let's take an example of wide generalization. If we are talking about independence of India, we are certainly going to study about all the Government of India acts. We are going to study about revolt of 1857. We are going to study about how India came to be colonialized in the first place, how it happened, what were the reasons. So we are generalizing everything. All these generalizations are possible only if we have all the data and facts. If, let's take an example, if we are going to study just the independence and we don't know anything about revolt of 1857, we don't know anything about bird wars, we don't know anything about Government of India acts, then how are we going to generalize, or how are we going to study the things that made possible the independence? We will just be knowing that India got its independence, but we won't be able to know how it got its independence, what were the factors, what happened back then, and all that. One important concept in historiography is metahistory. What is metahistory? It is a mechanism through which we impose a principle to organize history from outside history. What it means is that we are taking a single simple statement or a thesis and we are trying to organize history based on that thesis. Let us take an example of this book, The Clash of Civilizations. Actually, this is a thesis which says that after the Cold War, all the wars and conflicts will be based on people's cultural values and their traditions and their religions. So, we can use that thesis to study post Cold War wars or conflicts. If we see about recent Afghanistan capture by Taliban, we can see that this thesis stands correct. They captured Afghanistan based on their values of Islam. They think that their values are right over the people of Afghanistan who seem to have their values. And we can also say that it is a philosophy of history which can explain historical developments. There are Marxist and Weberian approaches which are not examples of metahistory. We are going to study about Marxist and Weberian approaches in the upcoming videos, but for now, Marxist and Weberian approaches are theories which are used for analyzing concrete history. Concrete history is just nothing but a history which is based on evidence which are correctly recorded. And the elements of these approaches can be tested by analyzing concrete history. Next topic is why generalization is so important. What is the inevitability of generalization? So why generalizations are important? Because all make them or use them. Even when a historian thinks that he is not using it, but in his mind he is using it invariably. So there exists one notion that historians should gather as much data of the past as possible and arrange it in chronological sequence. And why is it so important? Because there are three reasons. Selection is necessary because facts are so many. A historian selects so many facts, but he has to arrange which facts he is going to use and which he is going to discard. Secondly, gathered facts have to arranged and grouped. So to make them arranged in a certain sequence, generalization is important. And in fact, the facts which have been recorded are already the product of generalization because the person selecting them has made some kind of generalization that let's select these facts and discard those facts. As an example, today we can see that newspaper reports some news and doesn't report some news. So that is based on the minds of the reporters, editors and owners, and they generalize that what they are going to report and what they are not going to report. So that is the product of generalization. So we can see that generalization not only in historiography but it is inevitable in almost every circumstances of our daily life. We generalize everything. We tend to generalize everything. That is like a human nature. And we can say that the person who has the most data, most knowledge, that person will generalize most because he has the data, he has the knowledge, he can arrange it, he can generalize it. So the next topic is objections to generalization. What are the objections that people tend to make for generalization? The first objection is based on the facts. that generalization should be made to flow from facts, but as we know that in the first place facts flow from generalization. We select facts which are important by making generalization. So this is a cycle. We select facts based on generalization, then we again generalize and select further facts from them, or we can select facts from facts and so on. It is said that every event is unique and possesses an individuality of its own. So, according to this view, society is atomistic and follows no uniformity. But the fact is that even uniqueness demands comparison. That is a self explanatory sentence that there is someone unique because we compare it to other people who are not unique. So, that is a generalization we are making. If we are not going to compare, we cannot find anything unique. Same goes for Indian national revolution. We say that it is unique, but its uniqueness we can grasp only when we compare it to Spanish revolution, when we compare it to other revolution. So that's how we find something unique by comparing it from other things. Otherwise, uniqueness can't be found. And that is all possible through generalization. So often the critics really target those generalizations which are prior in character. Prior in character means that they are not tested, they are not based on experience, they are just imposed on historical reality. That these may be true and all these may not be true. Similarly, many generalizations are inadequately tested. Many are based on oversimplification of data and relationships. And some are plainly stupid. For example, like if we say like why study Africa? It can't be generalized that it is there so it has to be studied. Generalization should be tested by test, debate and conversation. More we debate, more we test that theory, more we converse on that idea, then generalization could be proven right. So the real problem is different and they can be classified as follows. Generalizations should be made explicit so they can be openly debated. The main problem is the level of the generalization and what kind it is. The degree of validity or truth, and one should study how to make generalization, learn how to improve one's capacity to make interconnections which are better or more authenticated and useful ones. All in all, the problem is that generalization should be discussed thoroughly. It should be made clear that what level of generalization it is. It is low level generalization, wide level generalization, or medium level generalization. What kind of proof is used to validate it, and one should gather all the data, all the knowledge so that one's capacity to make interconnections can be improved. Like my previous example, if one is studying about Indian independence and one doesn't know about revolt of 1857, then that just signifies that it is inability of that person to make interconnections. and the generalization which he or she has come up with is not going to be fruitful, because that doesn't include all the data, all the facts which should be there regarding the Indian national movement. So next is role of generalizations. What are the role that generalization plays? So first is they helps in organizing principles for the data that person has recorded. Second is they helps in improving the historian's perception. The historian can easily make interconnections among the data, among the facts they have recorded. Next is it helps in enabling the historian to draw inferences, to establish chains of causation and consequences. That is, he or she can analyze, interpret, and explain the data which he has recorded. With that, there are 5 W's of a historian's craft, that is, who, what, when, where, how, and why. All these W's are used to record the data and arrange it and make a generalization, and again finding and analyzing using those generalizations. Next is generalizations lead the historian to look for new facts and sources. Generalization helps a person to know certain facts which may not have been recorded yet, and he can find it. There is a cycle of knowledge, information, data that goes in generalization, and it is basically the role that generalization helps in gathering data to information, information to knowledge. Generalization enables the historians to establish new connections between old data and the known facts. It also helps in throwing new light on old facts, that some facts which may not have been studied may be studied using more generalization that person has came up with. Generalizations also help the historian to avoid empiricism. Empiricism is just nothing but looking at the sources at their face value. That if it's written A or if it's written B, the historian may not just see it as A or as B, but he will see through it and he may find some new information about it. Like the Harappan language. Harappan language is composed of sign language. So these are not taken at face value. If certain character is maybe like this, so these are not taken at this is just a simple character. Generalization is used to find something about it, some meaning about it. Generalizations also enable a historian to constantly test what he is saying. Historian can easily classify or categorize or interrelate person or events using generalization, and he can examine what their meaning or relevance is. Generalization also is used to contradict what the facts may be saying, or maybe looking at the other side of the story. Without generalization, one does not look for the facts which might contradict one's views, and they may miss facts which they stare one in the face. One is seeing some facts but he may not think about it, but if there is a generalization that person has came up with, he can see all about it, he can look through it. This is a cycle which flows in the upward direction. That is, we gather data. Data helps us to make something out of it and we term it information. With information we get knowledge. and with knowledge we get wisdom. Next is sources of generalization. What are the sources? So the major source of generalization is the previous writings on any subject which contain different generalizations, because in those writer because in those writings the person who has written that book must have come up with several generalizations of his own. So we study those generalizations and then we came up with our own generalization. Another major source is social sciences, other social sciences. Like we are studying history, or we are studying maybe political science. So if we are looking at Indian national movement, or we are looking at French Revolution, then we just not look at French Revolution, but we also look into other social sciences of that era, like the polity of that era, the culture of that era, the tradition of that era, the behavior and the caste outlook of the people of that era. All that becomes sources for the generalization. Theories of history, society, culture, which different authors has come up with, like Marx, Weber, Freud, are another major source of generalization. Historians also derive generalization from the study of the present. For example, movement of Dalits and other anti-caste groups and of tribal people, like the recent movement by farmers, may also give rise to certain generalizations if we are going to study about the farmers movement. Next is education is the most important thing. Only by education we can derive generalization. Second is common sense, and historians' personal life or personal adventures also give rise to generalization. For example, we visit certain places, we visit to certain temples or certain ancient architectures, we get some generalization about the idea of how that time or era was to be, how that era was, how that people lived, what was the lifestyle of those people. So we get that by traveling to places from our life experiences. Next is how one can improve his capacity or her capacity to generalize, or how can one acquire and improve the capacity to grasp the underlying deeper connections. Although this area is very much open and the answers are both tentative and inadequate, one cannot easily define or say that what can improve one's capacity to generalize. One can acquire as much as knowledge, read as much as possible to handle all cases. One can apply logical principles. Language is a historian's basic tool. Like one should think in clear language, one should write in clear language, and one should study and examine in a systematic manner, like in a chronological manner or any other manner that person has came up with. It should be clear. Refinement should be done. Refinement can be done by discussing about it, be it family, be it friends, be it colleagues, be it lecturers. The more we talk about the generalization, the more we talk about that idea, it gets refined automatically itself. When the idea gets critically examined by other, then the quality of that idea, the quality of that generalization improves itself. The area which one person is studying, he should be aware of the previous generalization in that subject. It may be by different authors, by different newspapers, by different articles, by different books. It can be anything. Comparatively, history should be examined like the social sciences, natural sciences, physical sciences of that era should be examined for sources of generalization. One should acquire better knowledge of the present, better touch with the present in making generalizations. He should be aware of the current affairs if he is going to be generalizing about something present or the past. And lastly, one's position in life certainly influences one's capacity to generalize and understand the march of history. So, lastly, the conclusion. Generalization is a very important part of historical work. As you can see, you can easily determine yourself that without generalization, historians cannot make the history. Although there are many possible objections to generalization, but without it, no writing is possible without using the general terms and concepts. Generalizations are derived from earlier works and serve as the starting points for the current work. Whenever we are writing history or whenever we are writing any book, be it an autobiography or a biography, we tend to read works of the same category from the previous generation, from the previous era, or maybe from the present era itself, to get the idea where the flow is going. The generalization may keep changing as the work progresses. Obviously, in every era, in every century, in every year, the thinking of the generation changes. However, at every stage, historians have to make generalizations which provide the basic for understanding their facts and source material. So that is all. That is all about generalization. It was a very easy topic actually, and most of you may be aware of it and may not even need to study about it. Generalization is such an important part, and it is automatically in our brains that we don't need to read about generalization to get to know it. So the next topic will be causation, that is unit 2, and we will move forward from there. Thank you for watching the video. Do like and subscribe, and if you have any questions regarding this, you may mail me on the email ID or you may ask me in the comments. Thank you so much.